Be showing you how to install the Moodle e-learning platform on Linux Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is to deploy a cloud-hosted Ubuntu instance on the Amazon Lightsail service. So log into your Amazon account, and then on the Lightsail dashboard, just click on the Create Instance button. Select the Ubuntu 20.04 instance type, and then select the $10 plan, and then set the name of the instance to Moodle server. So I've set the name now, and then click on the create instance button. So once the instance has been created, copy the IP address and then go to the Route 53 service and then click on hosted zones. So once you click on hosted zones, I'm actually going to add an A record that points to the Moodle server. So click on the create record button on the hosted zone that you'd like to edit, and then on the record name I'm actually going to set it to Moodle server.bilisoftwebservices.com, and then on the value field just paste the IP address, the public IP address for the Moodle server, and then click on the create records. So I've created an A record, which is sort of like a subdomain that points to the Moodle server. So the next thing to do is to download the default key pair file that actually allows us to connect to the Moodle server via SSH. So let me actually just rename this file. I'm going to rename it to Moodle. I'm just going to call it moodle.pem. Okay, and then once you do that, open up your terminal application and then run the command cd downloads. So that will change the working directory to the downloads folder, and then run the command ch1400 moodle.pem. So I'm actually setting the .pem file to read only, and then to connect to the instance, run the command sshi moodle.pem, and then let me just make a correction there. So it's moodle.pem, and then the username Ubuntu at the IP address for the Moodle instance. So I'm just copying the IP address now and then pasting it into the terminal, and then press enter. So type in yes and then press enter. So we're now connected to the Moodle server via SSH, and then the next thing to do is to install package updates for the server. So run the command sudo su to change to root, and then run the command apt update. So this will actually install system and package updates for Ubuntu, which is actually the operating system that we're deploying Moodle on. So once the package update installation process is complete, what I'm actually going to do now is to set a custom host name. So run the command hostname ctl set hostname, and then I'm going to call it Moodle server, which is exactly the same as the subdomain that we've mapped to this instance. And then run the command nano etc hosts, and then you need to type in 127.0.0.1, and then it's Moodle server .bluesoftacademy.webservices.com, and then Moodle server. So I'm actually setting the host name in the host file in the Ubuntu host file actually. So once you've actually done that, the next thing you need to do is to reboot the instance. And then once the reboot is done, we're actually now going to install the LAMP stack, some software dependencies, as well as cloning the Moodle project onto this Ubuntu instance. Okay, so I've reconnected to the server, and this document that I'm actually using now to do this installation, I actually include the link to this document in the video description. So the first command that you need to run actually is apt install Apache 2, which is a web server Ubuntu package. And then once you actually run through that installation, you actually need to then enable the Apache web server to start up automatically. So I'm going to run the command systemctl enable Apache 2. The next thing to do is to install the MariaDB MySQL server. So just paste in that command and press enter. So it actually downloads through the MariaDB database, MySQL database engine. And then once the installation is done, you now need to go through the MySQL secure installation. So you just have to wait for the MariaDB installation process to complete. And then once it's done, we're then going to go through the secure installation setup process. Actually, the installation is almost done now. Okay, so the installation is done, and then I'm just going to paste that command in and then press enter. So it's asking me to set a root password. I'm just going to type in no, and then the rest of the prompts you just need to type in yes, and just clear your screen. So we've actually secured our MySQL installation, and the next thing that we're actually going to do is to install PHP. So run the command apt install PHP, and then when prompted, just type in Y and press enter. So we're actually installing the PHP package now, and then the next thing that we actually also need to do is to also install some PHP extensions that are also needed by Moodle for it to actually run smoothly. So I'm actually going to run through that installation now. So just paste in that command and then press enter. Okay, so it's now installing the PHP extensions and modules that are needed by Moodle. And then once that installation is done, you now need to also then restart the Apache 2 system service. So just copy that command that I've actually just copied now, and then you actually need to then paste it into the terminal window. So the extensions installation process is almost done now, and then once it's done, I'm then going to then restart the Apache 2 service. Okay, so let me just clear my screen and then paste in the command to restart Apache. So the next thing that we're actually going to do is to clone the Moodle project into the server. So just run the command cd opt and then paste in the command to clone the Moodle project into this Ubuntu server. So I'm actually cloning it into the opt directory. The cloning process shouldn't take more than 10 minutes or so. It just depends on the performance of your internet connection. But it's a fairly simple process where you just run one command and then it clones the Moodle project from the GitHub website. So once the clone process is complete, you need to change your working directory into the Moodle folder. So I'm just waiting for it to complete, and then we're then going to then change our working directory into the Moodle directory. So let me just copy that command to actually select the Moodle version 4 stable branch. Not sure why it's taking so long to clone the project, because I was actually expecting it to be done by now. I guess it's my internet connection, as I had said earlier. But the good thing is actually it's almost done. Okay, so the cloning process is done. So I'm actually then going to change into the Moodle directory and then to then select the version 4 branch. So just run the command and then press enter. So once you've actually run that command, you need to then check out, you run the command git checkout Moodle 400 stable. So just copy that command and then paste it into the Ubuntu terminal. So once you've actually done that, you now need to copy the Moodle directory into the var www html directory. So you just run the command, and it should copy all the Moodle files into the Apache default location. And then you need to change the permissions on the file to read, write, executable. So once the copy process is done, just paste in that command to change the permissions of the Moodle files to read, write, and executable. And then you now need to also create a Moodle data directory. This is where Moodle keeps all of its files and information. And then you also need to change the ownership of that Moodle data directory to the www data user. And then the final thing is to change the permissions on the file to read, write, and executable, or the on the directory. Sorry. So I'm actually doing that now. I think my terminal session is lagging a bit. Okay, so that's the command that you now need to run to change the ownership of the Moodle data directory. Okay, so what we're actually going to do now is to create a database that is needed by Moodle. So run the command sudo mysql -u root p, and then the password is blank, and then copy that command to create the Moodle database. So just copy and paste it, and then press the enter. Go back to the document, and then copy the command to create a Moodle user. So just copy that command, and then paste it into the Ubuntu terminal. And then the last command is to then set the access permissions for the new user that we've actually just created. And then you now need to flash privileges, and then press actually exit out of the MariaDB shell. So the next thing that we're actually going to do is to open up a web browser, and we are actually going to then complete the Moodle post-installation setup process. But before we do that, I need to open up HTTPS port 443. So I'm just updating the firewall rules in the Amazon Lightsail IPv4 firewall. So once that update is done, I'm actually then going to open up a new web browser tab, and then we're then going to complete the post-installation setup. So I'm just going to paste in the URL or the subdomain that I created earlier, which is actually moodleserver.buildsoftwebservices.com, and then /Moodle. So if you press enter, you should actually see a page that looks like the one that's actually going to load up now. Okay, so this is the installation page that should open. So just click on next, and then on the confirm paths page, change the data directory to var Moodle /Moodle data, and then click next. And then on the choose a database driver, select MariaDB, and then click on next. And then type in the database user. Let me just double check from the command that we actually ran earlier when we were actually creating the database. I'm just copying the username as well as the password, which was actually just password. So you need to specify a stronger password obviously than this, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So just paste in that password there, and then click on click on next, and then click on continue. So the Moodle installer will just go through some checks, and then once those checks are done, click on continue. Okay, so this Moodle system installation process is now in progress. So you just have to wait for this part to complete. Should take less than 5 minutes or so, again depending on the performance of your server, of which I believe it should be done right about now. Okay, there you have it. So just click on continue, and then you should now see an installation page that looks like this. So you just need to type in a username as well as a password for the administrator user account. So this is your main user account that you actually use to administer the Moodle e-learning platform. So I'm just typing in a password now, and then once you've actually typed in a secure password, I'm just going to copy it, and then on the surname section, I'm just going to call the username administrator. I'm just going to set it to administrator, the surname, and then I'm just going to type in an email address. So you need to put in an email address that you actually remember, so that maybe if you need to reset your password, or if you forgot your password, you can actually use that email address to regain access to your Moodle server. So once you've actually typed in your details on this page, just click on continue, and then you should now see a site home settings. So just type in the name of your website, and then your support email, as you can see, and then click on save changes. So once you've actually done that, we've actually completed the Moodle installation process. So the next thing that we're actually going to do is to install a free Let's Encrypt SSL certificate on the Moodle server, and to also disable HTTP access to the server. So go back to the document and then copy the command that I'm actually copying now, and then paste it into the terminal window. So just run the command. It will actually install a program called Snap, and then we're going to use Snap to install certbot. So I'm just copying that command and then paste it into the terminal window for the Moodle server. So just paste that in and then press enter. So we're actually installing certbot, which is an application that was developed by Let's Encrypt that allows you to easily deploy Let's Encrypt SSL certificates. So just run the command sudo certbot -- Apache, and then type in an email address you wish to use for renewal purposes and security notices related to your SSL certificate, and then press end. So just press Y, and then you need to press Y again. I think I actually made a mistake here, because I wasn't supposed to type in the subdomain for the Moodle server, but I was just supposed to type YAD. So as you can see, the server is actually not recognized what I actually just typed in. So just type Y and then press enter. And then this is where you actually need to specify the domains that you'd like the certificate to protect. So it's going to be moodleserver.microsoftwebservices.com, and then press enter. So it's actually requesting for an SSL certificate for that domain, and then once the request process is done, you should see a successfully deployed certificate message popping up. So the next thing that you need to do is to run the command sudo certbot renew dry run. So just run that command, and then it will then generate the needed scripts for you to automatically renew your SSL certificate whenever it reaches its expiry date, because Let's Encrypt certificates expire after every 90 days. So the next thing that we're going to do is to edit the config.php file for the Moodle system. So you just need to look for the entry where it says www root, and then change it from HTTP to HTTPS, and then press Ctrl O and then press Ctrl X. So once you've done that, let's restart Apache. So I'm actually now restarting Apache for the changes to take effect, and then go back to your web browser and refresh the page. So you'll notice that it no longer says not secure, but you now see a lock lock icon, and then it says connection is secure. So that's been it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope this tutorial has been informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.